All right, we've now got part 10 fully implemented, so let's go ahead and come over here and knock this off of our overview plan. So yeah, lives and levels working good. The game is almost complete, minus of course our HUD scoring and then the add-on, our power-up. So here we are, part 11, and in part 11 what we're going to do is implement the scoring system and get the HUD drawing. Now, the scoring system is a little bit more sophisticated than your average game, where your average game is save a good guy, get a few points. While that is the underlying theme here, there is kind of some motivation set in place to keep people wanting to save cells as opposed to hiding in a corner, since we can advance from one level to the next without saving all the cells. And that motivation is, if you don't save a cell, we're going to make the cell worth less value, less score points, at the next one that you grab. So with that, you don't want to sit around too long and let too many cells die, otherwise you're simply not going to get that many points for saving the remaining cells. So let's go ahead and take a look at what all we need to do to implement this scoring system and to get our very simple HUD up and drawing. Let's go ahead and come over here, we'll hide that out, jump all the way up to the top, throw in a new whiteboard real quick, hide that back array, and here we are, part 11, and we'll call this score and HUD. Now, as we have done with pretty much all of the other sections, we've got some fields that we need to add in, and we're going to be adding these fields inside of the game class. So we'll go ahead and mark this off with, well, first of all, let me mark it off like this by saying fields. So we're going to have a section for score fields. And what we're going to implement is going to be an initial score value, a cell death penalty, and a current score value. Because basically, here's how the system is going to work.
No, that and a field to hold the score itself.
Well, you know what, Logan? Just because you said that, I'll throw that in first. Now, how about we say score?
The most important part of this entire thing is to hold the current score.
Yeah, here I'm actually jumping ahead to the scoring system, but you're absolutely right. We need to hold our score, the score that the player, has earned in a score variable. So we'll go ahead and throw that in first. Now, how does this system work? Well, basically, what we're going to do is we're going to start out with initial value. That looked awful. So here we go. So this will be an initial value, and we're going to set it to 10. And then what we're going to do is we're going to multiply this by the level you're on. So this right here is going to be current level. All right, so let's say that you're on level 2. This means that the current cell value, the worth of each cell, will be 20 points. Let's go ahead and jot that down. So here we are at 20, and this is our current value. Now, of course, we don't want a player to hang out in a corner where there may not be any enemies, but perhaps a lot of cells around him, waiting for those cells to get attacked. So then it's just like, jump out the corner and save it. Jump out the corner and save it. Jump out the corner and save it. We don't want that to happen, because cells that are dying around elsewhere, they might have the attitude, let them die, who cares? Well, we want the player to care, because as each of those cells die, it's going to remove points. So I want to be able to subtract away from this current value, giving us a new current value. And the number that I want to put here is going to be based on a penalty that we're going to set up. So we're going to have another value, and this guy right here is going to be our cell death penalty. So I'll just call it death penalty for short right here. So our death penalty is going to be 2. Now, each cell that manages to die will be multiplied by that death penalty. So if we've got, let's say, 3 cells that have died. Now let me go ahead and set this up. We're on level 2. So we've got, I'm trying to decide how I want to draw this. Level 2. And remember, we have a constant that holds our base number of cells. Okay, so base number. How about base num cells? And this right here is going to tell us how many cells we're going to have on a level. So this would say, or this would give us a scenario where we had 4 cells on our level 2 level, okay? Now, if we've got 4 cells, let's say 3 of those cells have managed to die. So here we are, cells that have died. We've got 3 of them. Each cell, as it dies, what we're going to do is we're going to take away that death penalty from our current score value. So basically, we can represent it like this. 3 cells have died, so what's going to have been taken away? 6 points. So in this particular case, 6 points would have gone right here, giving our new current value at 14. So if we manage to only save the last of the 4 cells, we would only get 14 points from it. Is that pretty clear, Logan, how this whole thing's going to work?
Right. The whole idea is just to make the cells worth fewer points the more of them that die. It's to encourage the player to save as many cells as possible, to encourage the player to try to keep cells from dying.
Exactly. So to set up our fields for this, we're going to have a constant integer called initial score value. And we're going to set this to 10. This is this guy right here. Okay? Next one we're going to have is going to be a constant for the cell death penalty. So here we are with our cell death penalty. And we're going to set that at a value of 2.
Now, just one thing to note with the cell death penalty is that will have to be, let's see, internal. Okay, no, I was looking at constant and static.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Which is the next one, which is I know what you were getting at, the current score value, which is this guy that we've been talking about up here, which is going to be decremented away from by the death penalty each time a cell dies. This guy is going to be defined inside of the game class, but needs to be created as a static field because we're going to need access to it from over inside of the cell class where a cell truly dies at. So we'll go ahead and define this as a static. And it'll be a static int. And this is going to be our current score value.
So that'll be used both within the game class itself to increase score, and will be used by the cell class, or will be decremented by the cell class in order to give that penalty.
That's right. All right, so that's going to take care of all the fields that we're going to need to add in. So now we can shift our attention over to methods. So what methods are going to be in place? Well, no new ones. Basically, we're going to go in and just add a few things. So let's start out inside of the begin level. So in begin level, we need to go ahead and initialize the current score value for what cells are worth at the beginning of a level. And all that's going to be is a simple mathematical expression here. So current score value equals that initial score value times level.
Really, that just matches the very first line that you wrote on the whiteboard.
Yep.
Initial value of 10 times a possible level of 2 would give the final current score value of 20.
That guy right there, as Logan was just saying, is this guy right there. All right, so we need to make sure that that is set up in begin level. Then what we're going to do is jump up to the update class, and we're going to, in that area where we've got cells that are being saved, remember we put a comment there that says, hey, this is a great place to add some scoring code. Well, that is where we're going to go back and update that section so that our score is increased because a cell was just saved. So this one is going to be in update. And then we'll just say increase score. when cell save.
We probably even still have that old comment that's sitting there.
We do.
When we first made the saving code.
And this is really easy too. It's really going to be this dot score plus equals current value, okay, or current score value. Now, what we need to do at this point is make sure that our current score value is affected by dying cells. So we'll have to shift gears over into cell. So in cell class, in update, in the part where the cell has just died, and this is where we'll affect that current score value. That's an awful looking C over there. So our current score value needs to be decremented by the, so basically we're just going to take it and decrement it by the cell death penalty. When cell dies. Okay, so we're not really coming in here and multiplying like this, but this is just a good way to represent if you've got X number of cells that have died. Well, each cell that's died has been worth 2 points that will be removed from the current score value. So we could just say how many points in all have been removed away from our initial score. Take the cells, multiply that by the death penalty, and there you go. And there you go. But in actuality, what's going to take place in code is each time a cell dies, right then we're going to update that current score value by taking away 2 points. Okay? And let me clean that up. There we go. That looks a little bit nicer. Now, the last thing we're going to need to do, because this here fully implements the scoring system, we're going to need to shift gears and get the HUD in place. And in Precision, Logan and I talked about it, and we decided to do a very simple HUD since this is the real first XNA game. And so for a simple HUD, all we're going to do is draw out score, value, and lives.
Since, I mean, even some of the screens before playing, so like title, or excuse me, game over and level change, even those were using just simple lines of text for anything informational.
So let's say that we had managed to grab 20 points, and right now a cell has died. We're on level 2, so we've got a value of 18 is what they're worth, and we've got 3 life left. That is going to be our very simple HUD. Nothing sophisticated at all. And it really is going to serve its purpose well, so that while a player is playing, they can always look to see what their score is, and they can also see what each cell is worth at that point in time. And this is going to wrap up everything that needs to be accomplished here in Part 11. Logan, is there anything you want to add to this?
Well, thinking about, remember when we did begin level, we had to make sure and account for things restarting. Or rather, even before begin level, we had begin game.
That's right.
Begin game would reset a few choice things, like lives, because lives could decrement, but then if the game was to end and begin over, it would have to be reset. So we'd have to reset lives back to 3.
Well, that's a great thing for us to add
now,
into
score
here.
is just another field, just like lives. So if the game was to end, we'd want to make sure we reset the score. Otherwise, there's no reason, or there's no penalty to dying. You just restart and continue gaining more score.
You're absolutely right. So as Logan was saying, we need to make sure that our score gets set back to 0 if we're starting a brand new game. Absolutely. Okay, well with that, that is going to wrap up everything that we need to accomplish here in Part 11. So now we have an implementation plan. Let's go ahead and turn our attention over to Visual Studio Express and follow it. That's going to wrap up this video. Thanks a lot.